The stars were quiet. On the edge of the galaxy, a small alien station floated in the cold darkness. It was old, weak, and nearly forgotten. The station belonged to the Lorenians, a peaceful race of scientists and builders. They were not warriors. They never needed to be. But now, they were afraid. Kello, a young Lorenian communications officer, sat in front of a blinking console. His fingers trembled as he looked at the screen. The warning was clear. Vorik fleet detected. 47 ships. ETA. 6 hours. His heart pounded. The Vorik were monsters, giant lizard-like creatures who burned cities, crushed planets, and laughed while doing it. Kello had read stories. Now he would live one. He turned to Commander Rollith. "Sir, they're coming." For us, Rollith didn't speak. He just stared at the monitor. Then, without a word, he activated the ancient distress beacon. It had not been used in 300 years. The beacon glowed red. A universal SOS signal was sent across the galaxy. They waited. Minutes passed, then hours. Kello checked the console again and again. No response. The Galactic Council didn't reply. The nearby allies didn't answer. Even the trade ships ignored them. "Why won't anyone help us?" Kello whispered. Rollith spoke softly. "Because we are weak. Because we are forgotten." A silence settled over the station. The kind that felt heavy, hopeless. Suddenly, beep, a reply appeared on the console. But it wasn't from the Council. Not from any neighbor. The language was strange, harsh, but translated perfectly. Signal received. Earth is responding. Kello blinked. Earth. Rollith's eyes widened. Humans? The Lorenians knew about Earth. Everyone did. It was the Death World. Gravity? Too strong. Weather too wild. Beasts too deadly. The Council had once banned humans from sending military ships beyond their own system. But now, Earth was coming? Kello looked nervous. Should we trust them? Rollith said nothing. He just whispered, "Let's hope we didn't call the wrong kind of help." 3 hours later, the sky changed. The Vorik ships appeared first, huge black monsters in the sky, spikes along their hulls, weapons ready. They roared toward the station like a storm of death. The Lorenians panicked. "Shields up!" Rollith shouted. "We have no shields!" Someone yelled back. Kello thought this was the end. Then space cracked open. A blue flash, then another. Then 10, 20 human ships came through the rift, massive, silent, painted in dark steel. They didn't send messages, didn't ask questions. They just moved fast and angry. At the center was one ship, larger than all the rest. It blocked the sun. Its name was written across the side. TFS Oblivion. Kel stared in silence. They really came. Rayleigh stood frozen. "I don't think they came to talk." Then it happened. One of the Vorik ships fired first. A red beam shot across space aimed at a human destroyer. Before it hit, the destroyer vanished, and then reappeared behind the Vorik ship. Boom. The Vorik vessel exploded into dust. The humans began their attack. It wasn't a battle. It was a hunt. The Lorenians watched in shock. In minutes, 5 Vorik ships were gone. No warnings, no mercy, no fear. Each human ship fought like it knew exactly where the enemy would go next. Kello whispered, "It's like they were waiting for this." Rollith narrowed his eyes. This isn't just a rescue." He was right. Kello's console beeped again. A private message sent directly from the TFS Oblivion. Only 6 words. "Protect your people. We handle war." The message disappeared. After reading, Kello felt his breath catch. They weren't allies. They weren't friends. They were punishment. Evorak began to retreat. It was too late. One by one, they were erased from the sky. In less than 20 minutes. It was over. No survivors. Silence returned. Kello looked at the stars. They asked for help? He whispered. Raleth finished the sentence. But Earth came like it was the end of the world. Asterisk, the battle was over. The sky was silent, but fear still remained. Commander Rowleth stood on the deck of the Lorenian station, staring at the human fleet. The Vorak were gone, burned to ashes in space, but the humans stayed, still. Watching. There were hundreds of ships, floating like black statues. None moved. None responded to hails. It felt like being watched by dragons. Kello leaned over his console. Still no reply, sir. We've sent 4 messages. No answer. Rowleth frowned. They saved us, but now, why do I feel like they're deciding something? Before Kello could respond, a sound filled the station. A deep, cold voice came through the speakers. Prepare for surface contact. Do not interfere. It wasn't a question. It was a command. Outside the station, small, black pods detached from the larger ships. They were not smooth or elegant. They were sharp armored and full of hidden weapons. 3 pods landed outside the main airlock. The door opened. From the shadows. They walked in. Humans. But they didn't look like the friendly diplomats from old stories. These humans were tall, armored in dark gray suits, eyes covered by glowing red visors. Each step echoed like thunder. Their movements were perfect, too perfect. The lead human stepped forward and removed his helmet. His face was pale. Scars ran across his jaw. His eyes looked like someone who had seen the end of the world and survived. He spoke calmly. I am Captain Rowan. You asked for help. We came. Rowleth stepped forward, carefully. Captain Rowan, thank you for... Rowan raised a hand. Save the thanks. It's not done yet. Rowleth paused. The Vorak are destroyed. Rowan stared directly into his eyes. No, they were the beginning. The room went quiet. Captain Rowan pulled up a small device and tapped the screen. A galaxy map appeared, glowing in the air. Dozens of red points blinked across it. Each one of these is a Vorak war camp. They've spread too far, too fast. The Council did nothing. They let the infection grow. Rowan looked at Rowleth with sharp eyes. You were the bait. They were going to wipe your species as a message. But now, he pointed to the map. We erased the message. Rowleth looked shocked. You planned this? Rowan gave a thin smile. No, we prepared for this. Kello whispered to Rowleth. They don't just want to stop the Vorak. They want to end them. Rowleth nodded. And I think they can. Suddenly, alarms blared across the station. Kello looked at his screen. New jump signatures, 12 more Vorak ships. Rowan didn't even flinch. He tapped his wrist. All units, show them what happens when Deathworlders respond. Outside, the stars burned again. Human ships moved instantly like they had already predicted the jump. Lasers, kinetic rounds, nuclear bursts. The Vorak fleet was destroyed before they could even aim their weapons. It was not a war. It was justice served and fired out inside. The Lorenians watched the sky light up with red and gold. One young technician whispered, This is what it means to be from Earth? Captain Rowan turned toward him. No, he said. This is what it means to be forgotten by the galaxy... and survive anyway. After the battle, Rowan walked to the viewing deck. Raleth followed. You risk a lot, Captain. The Council won't like this. Rowan stared at the stars. The Council already chose silence. Now Earth speaks, loudly. Rowleth shook his head. You fight like it's personal. Rowan didn't answer, but his eyes Said everything got back in the control room. Kello read one final message from Earth. Evacuate your civilians. The next phase begins in 36 hours. He turned to Ralith. What happens in 36 hours? Ralith whispered, the end of the Vorak, and the beginning of something much bigger. The Lorenians had asked for help. What they got was a war machine that woke up angry, and Earth had only just arrived. Asterisk. The countdown began. 36 hours. That's all the Lorenians were given. Commander Ralith paced the command bridge. Captain Rowan had returned to his ship. No further explanation. No warnings, just the order. Evacuate your civilians. And now, there were only minutes left. Kello stared at the monitor, whispering, they're still powering up their weapons. All of them. He turned to Ralith. We should be helping, not hiding. Ralith shook his head. No, Kello, we're not soldiers. We're witnesses. Outside, hundreds of human ships adjusted formation. Engines flared. Cannons charged. And then something different appeared. A ship, but not like the others. It was dark, spiked, and shaped like a massive spear aimed at the stars. Its core glowed blue like a dying sun. A warning flashed on the Lorenian monitors. TFS Nemesis class. Clearance Omega. No interference. Kello gasped. Nemesis class? It wasn't in any council records. Grelith's voice dropped too. A whisper. That's because it wasn't supposed to exist. Far away, across light years, the main Vorak stronghold spun slowly around a dead moon. A city built for war, thousands of warships, fuel silos, and barracks. They laughed when they received Earth's warning. You are marked. Prepare. They didn't take it seriously, until space cracked open in front of them, and from the rift came the Nemesis. The first strike began without sound. The Nemesis unleashed something that had no name, no light, no flame. Just obliteration. One moment, 5 Vorak ships were intact. The next, they were simply gone. Not destroyed. Deleted. Their space signatures were erased. No wreckage. No radiation. As if they never existed. On board the Lorenian station, Kello screamed, That's not possible. Nothing can do that. Ralith whispered, Humans can now. The rest of the human fleet followed behind. They didn't fight for territory. They didn't ask for surrender. They removed the entire Vorak war zone. Each blast was precise, targeted to key reactors, weapon banks, communication towers. It wasn't rage. It was surgical extermination. In the middle of the battle, a message was broadcast galaxy-wide. This is Earth. We asked for peace. You ignored us. We asked for justice. You laughed. You hurt the weak and called it strength. Now we answer in full. This is the first strike. Back on the station, Kello sat frozen. The feed showed a Vorak planet, one of their colonies, surrendering. Ships powered down. Creatures waving white banners. The humans didn't fire. They landed. But what they left behind wasn't an army. It was something worse. Machines. Dark, spider-like constructs crawled across the ground, cutting weapons in half, burning war caches, scanning mines. The planet was silenced, not by bombs, but by human control. Sir, Kello said quietly, the Council just sent a message. They're begging Earth to stop. Ralith raised an eyebrow. And they didn't answer. Hours later, Captain Rowan returned to the Lorenian station. Ralith met him at the dock. You started a fire the whole galaxy will see. Rowan looked tired, but proud. No, he said. We started a lesson, one they should have taught long ago. Ralith asked, what's the next step? Rowan looked to the stars. We finish what the Council was too afraid to begin. No more fear. No more warlords. No more begging for help. He paused. Now, When Earth shows up, the monsters run. That night, across thousands of systems, the name Earth meant something new. Not a planet, not a species, but a warning. Asterisk, the Vorak were running. One by one, their fleets were falling. Planets burned. Outposts vanished. And behind it all Earth. But still, the question remained, why? Why did humanity respond with such fire? Such fury? Even Commander Ralith didn't know until that day, when the truth came knocking. Kelo was alone in the observation deck, watching Earth's fleet in the stars. Suddenly, the door opened behind him. It was Captain Rowan. Kello stood quickly. "Captain, you," Rowan raised a hand. "Walk with me." They moved through the silent halls of the station, their steps echoing softly. Kello tried to stay calm, but something about Rowan felt heavy today, like he was carrying centuries on his shoulders. They entered a secured room. No windows. Just one table and two chairs. Rowan sat. Then, for the first time, removed his gloves. His hands were full of burns and old scars. He placed a small black box on the table. L. looked at it. "What is that?" Rowan spoke quietly. "A memory. One Earth never shared with the galaxy." He pressed a button. A hologram flickered on. The image showed an Earth colony, a peaceful place with farms, homes, and children. The recording date was 118 years ago. Then. The shadows came. Vorak ships rained fire. People ran, screamed, no defenses. No weapons. The feed cut to static, then switched to a council meeting. A human ambassador stood, crying out, "We are under attack. Please send help." The other alien leaders sat still. Some turned away. Others laughed. "Your kind is from a death world," one alien said. "Maybe you should act like it." The feed went black. Kelo sat in silence, eyes wide. Rion leaned forward, his voice cold, controlled. "They watched us burn. Not once, not twice, but 7 times. 7. Colonies gone, no help, no answers." Kello whispered, "Why didn't Earth tell anyone?" Rowan looked at him with tired eyes. "Because we were done asking. Done begging. We built in secret. We trained in silence. And we promised if anyone ever called for help, we'd answer, but not with words, with fire." Back in the main hall, Ralith listened to the transmission too. Every Lorenian officer stood frozen. This wasn't just a mission. This was justice delayed. Finally delivered. Later that day, Earth's AI command sent a message to the Lorenian government. "You are under our shield now. No charge, no treaties. Only one rule. When others scream for help, send us the signal. We remember silence. We will never stay silent again." News spread across the stars. On one side, Earth, unmatched, unforgiving, unstoppable. On the other, the broken pieces of the old galaxy. Council worlds whispering in fear. Warlords hiding in deep space. Pirates abandoning entire sectors. Because Earth was awake. And this time, they weren't asking. Ralith stood beside Captain Rowan at the viewing deck. The stars shimmered. The galaxy was watching. "Captain," Ralith asked, "what happens when the Council tries to stop you?" Rowan smiled, just a little. "They won't." "Why not?" Rowan turned slowly. "Because they know what we remember." Asterisk, the stars were no longer peaceful. They were burning. One system after another, the human fleet moved like a wave of judgment. Nothing survived its path. The galaxy now whispered one name in fear: Earth. But this wasn't just a mission. This was a reckoning, and it was far from over. Captain Rowan stood on the bridge of the TFS Oblivion, looking at the glowing red hologram before him. It showed the final Vorak stronghold, Drektor Prime, The heart of the beast. This is it, he said coldly. The nest. Behind him, Admiral Saulus gave the order. Full fleet. Engage cleansing protocol. Leave nothing standing. The command echoed through the human armada. Back on the Lorenian station. Rowleth and Kello watched in silence as over 700 human ships powered up. The space around them shimmered with blue energy. Weapons charged. Kelo whispered, "Cleansing protocol?" Rowleth nodded slowly. "I've read old Terran files. It's their final act. No prisoners, no chances." At Drektor Prime, the Varak prepared to fight. Thousands of ships, defense rings, cannons embedded into moons. They thought they were ready. They were wrong. Earth's fleet didn't. Stop. It divided, striking from 5 directions at once. Each wave carried newer weapons, plasma spears, orbital kinetic rods, hunter drones that tore ships from the inside. And above it all, a Nemesis-class super weapon charged again. Varak commanders screamed into comms. They're not even trying to take control. They're just destroying. A human AI voice answered. Correct. And with that, an entire moon base exploded, turned into dust before the sentence ended. On the Lorenian station, Kello watched the live feed and covered his mouth. They're not just fighting. They're cleansing. Rowleth turned away from the screen. This is the price of being ignored. The galaxy taught them silence. Now they answer with fire. Within 3 hours, Drektor Prime fell. It wasn't conquered. It was erased. No. Signals, no life signs. Only melted stone, blackened craters, and floating debris. Not a single Vorak ship survived. Captain Rowan stood quietly as the final impact shockwave passed across space. Admiral Solus nodded. It's done. The Vorak Empire is no more. Rowan looked to the stars. No, now it begins. A few moments later, a massive signal pulsed across the galaxy. Sent from Earth. Clear, sharp, unmistakable. We answered their call. We ended their threat. From this day forward, if any innocent species cries out, Earth will respond. Not with words, but with cleansing fire. The Galactic Council watched the message from their hidden chamber. No one spoke. One council member finally whispered, "We feared Earth would rise one day." Another added, "But we never thought they'd rise alone." Screens showed Lorenians, other Deathworld species, and even ex-council members now aligning. With Earth's command, the council was no longer the center of power. Kello stood before a gathered group of Lorenian students, explaining what he had seen. We asked for help, and help came not with kindness, but with strength. He paused. Earth didn't come to negotiate. Earth came to end a nightmare. One young Lorenian raised her hand. But wasn't it too much? So much destruction? Kello answered softly, "Maybe. But peace never comes for free." Later, Rowleth and Rowan shared a quiet moment on the viewing deck. The stars were calm again. "Will you ever stop?" Rowleth asked. Rowan's eyes didn't blink. Only when no one fears asking for help again. He turned to walk away. Asterisk. Until then, we keep the fire burning. Asterisk, the galaxy was changing. The Vorak were gone. The stars were quiet. But silence never lasts long. Far from the ruins of Drektor Prime, inside the shining halls of the Galactic Council, panic had finally begun to bloom. Not from war, but from fear of Earth. "They've gone too far," hissed the Xeran ambassador. "They destroyed an entire species." The ULEC delegate slammed her fist on the table. They were supposed to help, not rule. The chairman of this council, a gray-skinned, slow-speaking being named Jur, raised his hands. And we must act. Now, before Earth believes it owns the stars. A vote passed. Unanimous. Earth was to be warned, restrained, If they refused, then sanctioned. If they resisted, then punished. But no one noticed the silence of the youngest council member, Ambassador Valea. From the Lorenian system. She simply watched. And remembered. Hours later, the council broadcast a galaxy-wide message to Earth, to the human commanders. Your military actions have violated council peace doctrine. You will cease expansion, return to Sol system, or face consequences. The message ended with silence. No reply. For 2 days. Then, Earth responded. The reply came not as a message, but as a fleet. Over 200 human ships appeared without warning right above the council homeworld. But this time, they didn't fire. They didn't attack. They just hovered, watching. Then, from the largest ship, a transmission began. It wasn't an admiral. It wasn't a soldier. It was a human civilian. Elena. Drake, former ambassador to the council, once laughed at, now speaking with fire in her voice. You ignored our pain. You laughed at our suffering. You turned away when we begged for help. 7 times. Her voice stayed calm, but cold. Now the weak call us, and we answer. You call that dangerous. We call it duty. Inside the council chamber, no one spoke. Elena continued. This fleet could turn your world into glass. But we didn't come to destroy. We came to remind you. Her eyes narrowed on the screen. Your silence once killed billions. Never again. She paused and added, This is not a threat. It's a promise. Then the feed cut. No attack came. The fleet waited 30 more minutes, then vanished. The council world remained untouched. But the message echoed everywhere. Later that day, Earth issued a single statement to all systems. We do not serve the council. We serve the forgotten, the ignored, the weak. And if that makes you afraid, then maybe you are never meant to lead. On the Lorenian station, Kello watched the message repeat across every screen. He turned to Rowleth. They didn't fire, but it felt worse than any weapon. Rowleth nodded. Because now the council knows they don't control peace anymore. Earth does. Back on Earth, in a quiet command bunker, Admiral Solace met with Captain Rowan. We warned them, Solace said. Now what? Rowan looked out the window at the stars above. We wait, he said. Either they join us, he clenched a fist, or they move against us. And this time, the galaxy will choose sides. But in a small, quiet moment, a message came from an unexpected source. Ambassador Valea of the Lorenians sent a direct transmission to Earth. Her voice was clear. Her words few. You didn't come for power. You came when no one else did. We remember that. And if the stars must change, we will stand with you. For the first time since Earth struck back, humanity felt something new. Not fear, not hate, but alliance. And that was the Council's biggest mistake, forcing Earth to lead, when all it ever wanted was to be heard. The galaxy held its breath. The Council was silent. The Vorik were gone. Earth's fleets drifted like shadows between stars. Everyone waited for peace, or for fire, but no one expected what happened next. On a quiet moon orbiting the neutral planet Karnas, leaders from across the galaxy arrived. Not in grand robes or royal ships, but in silence, under tight guard. They came not for power. They came because Earth had called. Captain Rowan stood in the center of the meeting dome. His armor was gone. He wore a simple black coat. No medals, no rank, just presence. Beside him stood Ambassador Alina Drake, and next to her Ambassador Valea of the Lorenians. They didn't smile. They didn't bow. They waited. The first to speak was the council chairman. Jur, we are not enemies, he began. Rowan cut him off. No, he said coldly. You were cowards. Silence. Elena stepped forward, speaking calmly. You let monsters grow. You watched them burn worlds. You ignored our cries. And when we stood up, you tried to stop us. She paused. But we didn't burn your cities. We didn't erase your council. We gave you a chance. Her eyes scanned thee. Room, this is the second one. Don't waste it. The Zalari Queen stood. Then what does Earth want? Power? Territory? Rowan answered simply. We want no throne. We want no crown. Responsibility shared. The room shifted. Confused. Ambassador Valia spoke. Earth has offered a new council, a new alliance. One where the weak are heard. One where help is guaranteed. No politics, only action. She paused, then said what no one expected. The Lorenian people will stand with Earth, not because we were forced, but because they answered when no one else did. From across the galaxy, voices joined in. The Helari, the Dustborn, even former council colonies. One by one they agreed, not out of fear, but because Earth had proven something rare. They meant what they said, and they acted when no one else dared. Back on Earth, Admiral Solus and Captain Rowan watched the final vote appear on their screens. 87 species joined. 7 opposed. 3 abstained. A new galactic alliance had been born, the Union of the Willing. Its core law was simple. No cry for help goes unanswered. And its shield would always be Earth. Months passed. The war ended, but the work had just begun. Human engineers helped rebuild the Lorenian cities. Former war zones became hospitals. Refugee worlds received food, defense systems, and technology Earth once hid. But even with peace, one truth remained. Earth still kept its fleet ready, not for conquest, but for the next scream. One night, under the stars of a healing planet, Kello stood beside Ralith. Do you think this peace will last? Kello asked. Ralith smiled softly. No peace lasts forever. He looked to the stars, where a human ship glowed above them. But now, someone finally shows up when it breaks. Some say Earth became too strong. Others say Earth saved the galaxy. But every species now knew one thing for certain. When the end came, it wasn't the Council. It wasn't the Royals. It was the humans who stood up. Not for glory, not for power, but because they remembered what it was like to be alone. And in doing so, they made sure no one else ever would be again. Asterisk.